Good morning, guys, and welcome to the podcast from close to Ontario, Canada. I have Dave Campbell, and he is a podcaster, and he's got a lot of ideas around building a platform with podcasts and for the audience and listeners, viewers that are interested in building a community using podcasting as a medium. I'm really happy to have him on. So, Dave, welcome.
Excellent, Chris. I love your show. You have an amazing guest lineup here on the podcast, so I'm
Yeah.
thrilled that I have a few moments with you today. It's great.
Yeah. And briefly introduce yourself, and I'm excited to delve into the conversation.
Yeah, I live in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada, near Niagara Falls. I'll give you a spoiler alert. It's a big hill, lots of water. A lot of people come to see Niagara Falls. It's a beautiful place. I've been podcasting for about 6 years now. I host 9 different podcasts on my own, and I also help people create their own podcast, whether you're a doctor, a speaker, a lawyer. I work with people and helping them get their message out to the world. So great to be with you, Chris.
Interesting. So kind of talk about just the area of podcasting, because a lot of thought leaders, influencers, public speakers, coaches, they have blogs, they have newsletter, they have social media. Why tune to podcasting currently?
Podcasting is growing. We're seeing it in the market right now that being able to take you along with me as I travel and be able to hear your message. A blog is great. Love blogs. They don't travel well in the car. You can't read while you drive. You shouldn't be. So having something in an audio format, I love podcasting because it's a companion piece for people as they do their daily routine. So you can come along with me or your favorite podcast host, and they can keep you company as you're doing other tasks at the same time. So it's a great way to level up your skills or knowledge and connections with community while leveraging what you know. There's people who are listening and watching this today. You know things that other people would love to tap into, and they would love to connect with you as a person. Again, it's one thing to read a blog, but it's another thing to interact with your favorite leader and thought leader by going into their podcast or their video or audio. It's a great opportunity to make connections, and those connections lead to great things in the future as well.
Interesting. So what kind of a lot of people what do you clients come to you for? Because I know you have a how-to podcast series, and what do you what's your client avatar and how do you help clients?
A lot of the people that I talk to are thinking about starting a show, and they're a little bit distracted by the noise in this space. There's so many opinions, there's so many options, and it gets to be a little overwhelming to the point where some people feel like, well, maybe podcasting isn't for me because I can't make sense of all the things going on and all the different voices. I like to make it super easy, super simple for people and give them the right path that works for them. So whether you're a business, you're a coach or a leader, a doctor, and your time is limited, maybe you're looking to outsource and have people support you, and you're the voice of the show and you have a team that supports you, or you are more do-it-yourself and you want to have the skills and talents and abilities to do all the work here on your own. You're not really looking for a team. So we kind of have 2 different approaches to how we set people up. But the biggest thing in all of this is the reason behind the show. And that's something for everyone to consider, whether you're thinking of podcasting, is why are you going to do a show? Is it to bring people into your network and your community that want to work with you, hire you, be in your support as community members? Or is it just for fun and entertainment? There's also that side of it as well.
Interesting. And then the next question I have for you is what situations would people not want to have a podcast? Does everybody need to be podcasting, or are there certain thought leaders or niches where podcasting is just kind of not really relevant?
I would love everyone to have a podcast because I'm biased, but I would also say that maybe podcasting isn't for you, depending on your workload, your commitments. If you're a speaker and you're traveling, there's a lot of complexities to what people might be doing and experiencing. But I would say, even if your own podcast isn't for you specifically, being a guest on podcasts is a great way for people to connect with you, for you to share your message and leverage someone else's audience and all of their work they can do for you behind the scenes. Just being a guest, adding that to your workflow, adding that into your speaking, adding it to where you show up online, being able to have a chance to have 20, 30, 45 minutes, having you, the star of the show, as a guest, I think can really lead a lot of people back to you. A high return on investment just by guesting.
Interesting. So kind of for those people that are interested in either starting a podcast, what is your number one tip to get started?
There's a quote that I love by Theodore Roosevelt that says, "Do what you can with what you have where you are." Do what you can with what you have where you are. Relates to podcasting, relates to anything that we really create. Do what you can. What can you do right now? So you're a busy speaker, you're a busy doctor, you're a busy lawyer. You don't have time to do it all. So do what you can with what you have. We have basically everything we need to do a podcast. You can always upgrade, you can always move up and get better and better equipment as you go, but you really don't have to buy the best of the best to get started. So do what you can with what you have currently. And then the biggest thing at the end there, where you are, you know enough right now to start. You know enough about your topic, you know enough about your community, you know enough about your subject to lead the conversation. So you have enough knowledge to begin. Where you go from there and how you level up and how you invest in your show, that's a future conversation. I see a lot of people getting a little overwhelmed by all of the things. And then again, like I said, they never start. So do what you can with what you have where you are. It's a great starting point.
Mm-hmm. And so the other question I have for you is, what are your top tips for growing a podcast?
Getting to know your community, having FaceTime wherever possible with people who follow, listen, and watch your show. I think that's probably one of the things that people are looking for the most from a consumer side is a connection with the host. It's one thing to listen or watch a video or listen to your podcast and passively bring in the content from your favorite host. But the moment they have time with someone like you, and I can then speak with you and understand you, and there's a deeper level of connection that happens simply by having time with your favorite host. So wherever that fits into your schedule, whether you do that from stage, you do it after you speak, after you come off stage, but your podcast is that underlying foundation that continues to build community for you while you're doing other things. So I really love that. So my biggest challenge for anyone thinking about starting a show is, to what end? Like, what is the end result? What are you looking to do? If it's to build community around your message, then create space in your day, in your calendar to talk and spend time with the people, just like you would when you come off stage and there's people gathered around for a few minutes of your time after your keynote. This is what podcasting is. It's you stepping off stage after a keynote and investing in your community that have gathered around you. That's a great visual to kind of keep in mind when you start your podcast.
Interesting. The other question is, when you talk about community, what are some other ways to grow your podcast, like in terms of metrics? Like, is it social media? Is it an email list? Is it a newsletter? Is it like followers, listeners, downloads? Which of these metrics is important to pay attention to?
They're all of them. All of them are important. I would say when people come to me and say, how can I grow my show? I always want them to define the word grow. What does that word grow mean for you? Because grow can mean numbers. Obviously, more people who listen, the better. But grow could also be the depth of connection. So I have a listener who comes and listens to my episode, but then goes and listens to more episodes. So they can grow in the depth of the catalog of what I put out there, grow in the depth of communication and connection, where now I've actually gone from a passive listener to an active community member. So my approach to podcasting is I want people to come and listen passively, and then I want to have them somehow raise their hand and say, I listen to your show. That's a great step. And from there, how can I reach out and talk to them and have a conversation with them? And then the last part, how can I get my listeners to talk to each other in community? Just again, let's go back to the keynote. There's a people gathered there to listen to a great keynote. After the keynote's over and the speaker leaves, people are milling around talking about what just happened. That's community. And I think in podcasting, if we can build a place where people can meet each other as fellow listeners, as fellow viewers, I think that's a beautiful base. to build something from right there.
Interesting. And so, when you talk about, it sounds like, what do you, is it, particular, call to action? Is it sign up for a newsletter? Is it sign up for an email list? How do you get people to raise their hand and get to the next step?
One of the things I started right off the bat, well, there's two. One was use a thing called SpeakPipe at speakpipe.com. It's totally free to set up. I don't get paid for this. But on SpeakPipe, people can leave you a voice message, which is great. So as people passively listen and you encourage them to reach out, give them an easy way to do that. So on SpeakPipe, they click one link, they can record a voice message, comes right to me, and I can respond with a voice message back and forth. I can also pull that voice message into my podcast and play their comment, their answer to a question. I can bring them in, make them part of the show. So I really like that kind of interaction that happens. So that's one thing. And the other one is I use Buy Me a Coffee, which is just a way for the audience to give back. Now, whether you use that money to help support your podcast, or maybe you don't need that. Maybe you can take the donations and the sponsorship that comes in from listeners, reinvest that into maybe someone in your community who could really use some help. And then tell your audience, listen, because of your kindness, we were able to take the money that's coming this year. We were able to help a family in need this year because of you. We don't really need the money here on the show, but I want to say thank you for your kindness. Any way you can get your audience to interact with you, voice messages, donating to the show, those are all things that can be a community building aspect to your podcast, which will help people self-identify as a listener and then get involved as well.
Interesting. The other thing is, with a lot of these communities, safety is very important. And what sort of guardrails do you use to promote podcast community safety and have the community thrive?
One of the other things I've done is recently, about a year now, I've been doing it. It's on meetup.com. I host twice a week a podcaster meetup where we get together with podcasters from around the world and we help each other. It's a community. It's listeners of the show and people who have never heard my show, which makes me happy because there's potential for a new listener there. But we get together, we support each other, we help each other with each other's podcasts, we answer questions, and we do podcasting in community. So often as creators, we do a lot of things in a vacuum on our own, and the motivation to continue takes a little effort for us to show up and do the thing. But the moment you work in a group, in a community, you have all these people cheering you on, supporting you, emailing you off our meetups and, doing life together. And I think that's really amazing. And that's really important. So for that meetup group, I'm very careful on who comes in the group, who's adding value. Sometimes I have had people who want to come in and take from the group. They want to promote, they want to promote. They don't want to give. So one of my first questions I ask everyone who's interested in that meetup group is, what are you willing to give to this group by joining up? You're going to gain knowledge. You're going to gain connections. That's great. But what are you coming to give to the group? I think that's really important.
Interesting. So, talk about just, podcaster basics, as a, because a lot of, guests, on the show, or sometimes they have, or they're like poor internet, or talk about some basic, you know, etiquette for podcast guests.
For guests, I would say to understand the show that you're going on. So before we hit record, I asked quickly, like, tell me more about your audience. I want to know who we're talking to so we can frame our questions and our answers to support the listeners and the viewers that are participating today. I think it's really important to have a conversation that ignores the audience. Doesn't bring a lot of value to the people who are going to experience this later. So let's know who we're talking to up front. So for me, I do pre-interviews with all my guests, and we talk about the show. We talk about what we want to cover on the show, and then we kind of build a bridge together. I really like that. Whenever possible, it's a great little tool. So I like to understand the audience. I like to understand where we're going with the podcast and bring value in every step. And what I always encourage my guests when they come on is to remember there's one more person here. There's yourself, there's myself, there's one other person, and they're going to experience this live in the moment or later on. And how do we bring them into the conversation? so they don't feel like they're a passive observer, but they're actively part of the conversation. Anytime you can do that, I think elevates your conversation and brings value to the person who we don't see, who's really going to enjoy this conversation later.
Interesting. Yeah, and a lot, like I said, it's quite interesting. It's funny, like, you get really, like, yes, they're around, just like the lawnmowers, or or just the lighting is really, or there's the mic, or like echo, or the internet connection is poor, these things. And it's so it's good for the guests to be aware of these types of things. One thing, the other question is, for just in terms of podcast hosts and podcast guests, talk about this area of Podfade, because people are like, oh, they're listening or viewing this, and they're like, oh, this podcasting is a great medium. Let's get started. And then, they'll do one episode and then, disappear and never be seen again. So how do you prevent this? And how do you, another thing is for podcast hosts is podcast guests that don't show up. How do you mitigate this?
Interesting. So, Chris, a lot of people look at podcasting and go, well, look at Chris with his show. This looks like fun. This looks like something I could do. This looks great as far as making connections. So if Chris can do this, Dave can do this, I can do this. It looks simple to start, and it might be simple to start. It's difficult to continue podcasting, because I find that a lot of people that I've been talking to, they don't future plan. They don't know where they're going with their show. They don't know the big purpose, the reason why, what am I focused on? And they run out of ideas. And after they run out of ideas, work takes over, family takes over, commitments take over, and they just slowly back away from their podcast. So it's kind of like quiet quitting, but in a podcast format. And people are just backing away from something they were really passionate about. Podcasting does take time. It takes commitment. You have to show up. You're going to build consistency with your guests. These are all of the things that you have to build over time. And the only way to get there is to simply keep recording, keep moving forward, and exercising and growing. Just like a speaker on stage, again, keynotes. You're not just going to jump on stage for the first time and nail it. You're going to take you a few times to find your rhythm, and you got to keep keynoting into the future. You can't just do it once and wipe your hands and I'm done. You're going to have more opportunities in the future. So you got to keep moving forward. As far as people not showing up, that's a very interesting challenge to have. I've done many episodes and I've been sitting in a waiting room for my guest. It does happen and it's unfortunate, but at the same time, I try to treat all my guests with the humanity that there are things that happen. Something happens and sometimes it's out of our control. So I always default to the best intentions of my guest, that for some reason it didn't happen. And I would just say, if you're going to guest on shows, like we talked about earlier, make sure it's a priority for you. Show up, understand the audience, understand your message, and deliver your best for the listener, and support the host. That's super important as a guest.
Yeah. Yeah. Really. And so to conclude, talk about how people can find you and your podcast and your community, how they can connect with you and follow you and reach out to you and listen to you.
Excellent. Well, I do have 9 different podcasts that I host. So let's narrow it down to one, because that's a lot to choose from. The How to Podcast series at howtopodcast.ca. So I'm in Canada. Howtopodcast.ca. Simple to find. Would love for you to come and check it out. We have guest co-hosts come on the show. They share their podcast journey. We have solo episodes, teaching episodes, and we're all here to help each other to grow your show, become a podcaster, and share and build a community around what you do. So I'm really glad, Clarissa, to be here with you on your show. I love your guests. I love what you do. And I just want to encourage you to keep going with your show. It brings you great value as a listener. I really enjoy it.
Excellent. Thanks so much for coming on, and I really enjoyed this conversation.
Thanks, Chris.